And welcome to the Sticky Microphone podcast with your host, Jay Dylan Madhav. As you can see, I am wearing a hockey jersey, Canucks NHL jersey, no less. And in fact, here I have my Canucks flag, which I could fly outside in front of my house, but I have a feeling that in Texas, the HOA would either not approve that or it would violate some um, homeowner's policy of some sort. But who knows? Maybe that's just my imagination. But what you'll notice is that there are two very distinct logos here. And as you know, I actually grew up in Canada. I lived in Vancouver for 24 years. So I'm very much Canadian and I still hold a passport. I spent 24 years living in Vancouver. As a child, I became a big hockey fan through the influence of my friends who played ice hockey, and I also learned how to ice skate and snow skate and do all the things that are pretty much expected up there. I got into hockey in a big way, starting in grade 5 or 6, again, really through the peer pressure and just the association of friends that I had. And I love the sport, and I love it today. And I always have. It's my single favorite sport. But again, I'm biased because I grew up watching and loving hockey, and and that love never leaves you, and that appreciation never leaves you, especially if you've played, because you know the hardship, what it takes, and you've learned a lot as far as playing and the skill that's required, and I think you have a very different perspective on it as a result of that. So. I used to, when I was in elementary school, even we used to collect hockey cards. I don't know if anyone does that anymore. They're like big baseball cards, basically, but they're hockey cards with all the notable players at that time, all the teams represented. Even though we were from Vancouver and we were Canuck fans, and make no mistake, in the 80s and 90s, Canucks were the shit. We just loved the games. Watching them in the bars or watching them live, we would totally get off on that. But we were fans of hockey in general, so we loved all the Canadian teams: Montreal Canadiens, Maple Leafs, Legendary. The Big Six was started: the Bruins, Islanders, and so on. We loved a lot of American teams, like I said, Bruins, Indians, Flyers. The list goes on and on. I think. When we started getting into a couple of decades back, probably now, the Anaheim Ducks and Avalanche and some of these smaller teams, I think that me and my Canadian friends would agree that we didn't follow so much those particular teams, and it probably affected the sport a little bit for us. But, we're hockey fans till the end, and the jersey, I've gotten back into following it in the last few years. So will admit there was a few years where I had moved to the U.S. and just hadn't been keeping up on Canadian hockey too much for a while, during which time the jerseys changed. So honestly, I'm still adjusting to this new Canucks jersey in these colors. And if I'm being really honest, I don't like it. I actually prefer the good old yellow and gold, the original, I call it, even though it's actually not the original. The logo has been changed various times, many, many times, because the franchise has been around for decades and decades, even before I became a fan. So you can see all of the trends online. But what's always most memorable for you is what things looked like when you started and you were at that formative age and got into it, and that will in your mind that will always be the original. That will always be the original deal, the real deal. But I'm still following hockey. What I get excited about these days, now that I live in Dallas, is when the Canucks come to Dallas to play the Stars. I go every year to the American Airlines Center to watch the Dallas Stars play the Vancouver Canucks. Sadly, the Dallas Stars beat the Canucks and many other Canadian teams. But I love watching the Canadian teams when they come to Dallas to play the Stars. Speaking of the Stars, I was still living in Canada at the time that Dallas acquired the team. So this is, again, going back 20 years or maybe a little bit more than that even. And us Canadians got news of the fact that Dallas was getting a hockey team. And as cynical Canadians, we laughed our ass off, quite honestly. We laughed our fucking ass off. That Dallas is getting a team. Texas, you're going to have hockey in Texas. What the fuck? What the fuck do Texans know about hockey? That was just a whole big joke we had. We laughed about it for a good long while. Years later, up to today, we actually have the Dallas Stars as a top performing NHL team. However, you do have to keep in mind, especially when the team was being moved and then assembled, this is actually has been historically true for most NHL teams and players in the U.S. Most of the players rather, are not American. They are Eastern European or French Canadian. The lineage is there. It always has been the case. That's where the talent has come from and where the hockey players have come from for 40 years, 50 years of playing ice hockey. I have in the last couple of years seen actual Americans, meaning born in the U.S., become professional hockey players, but it's only now you're seeing a little bit of that. It really is a rarity. So, just keep in mind, you may have American teams, including the Stars, that are performing well, but those are really European and French Canadian players with talent who've been recruited and paid for. Speaking of paid for, the way the Stars became such a good team, like many other sports, is you have money, you buy talent. That's how it works. You buy the best talent and players you can afford. Doesn't matter where they live, doesn't matter where they're from. You want to win. So, you want to win, you're going to buy, you're just going to buy the talent. Simple as that. Bring them from Canada, bring them from Russia, bring them from wherever. What salary they want, Dallas got a lot of money. Pay them, and a few years later, next thing you know, surprise, surprise, lo and behold, you got a team that's just performing outstandingly, of all foreigners, earning a lot of money. So that's just the way that I've seen, hockey evolve. I still love the sport. There's nothing like, candidly, going to a live game. I can't, in fact, watch hockey anymore on TV. I can only watch it live. It's a totally different experience. I think most of us would agree that that's true for most sports. Baseball, I find boring as hell in general. Never got into it. Certainly can't watch that live. Golf, never. Take me to a live match. Tennis, take me to a live match. I can get into it to a degree. Not as much as hockey or boxing or MMA, other sports that I also really enjoy. But I just cannot watch any of these things on TV, including hockey. I can watch hockey highlights. I can watch 10, 15 minutes of the game. I just can't watch the whole game. I just don't have the enthusiasm to sit in front of a TV screen like I could when I was younger. But you get me to a live game, and thankfully I get quite a few opportunities to go. Pretty much any Dallas Stars game when I want to go to, I get free tickets, so that's kind of sweet. And I go several times during the year. I take my friends. We make a night of it and we have a great time. So I'm really interested in hearing the opinions of you guys out there, hockey fans, and let me know your thoughts. A lot of people have grown up. If it's not hockey, it's with some other sport. It's nostalgic. It brings back a lot of memories for you that you can even think back upon as an adult, that have even formed you in ways as an adult. And now if you have children, I do not, but if people have children, they kind of want their child to also get into that sport and root for that same team, and almost like making them the next generation of fans. So it's kind of interesting. So I'd love to hear from you guys on that subject.